Hey guys, Ryan with CPP Tech. How you guys doing today? Video games. Then and now. What's changed? We're going to do a short video. I'm going to just talk about, I've been around since not really, the beginning. Stop. Okay, now, mind you, this is 40-something years of memory jumbled together, and okay, some of the dates and some of the times and some of the stuff is just running together. So please bear with me. Enjoy the story, regardless of the inconsistencies of it. I'm getting old, so bear with me. So enjoy the rest. Green screen was not lit right, and I filmed this 2 weeks ago or what have you, and I've been messing with it for about 2 weeks. So just enjoy it. If you have stories like this of your own, throw a comment below for me. I'd like to hear from you. But anyway, enjoy the rest of the film. I said it was short, but it turned out long, and that's fine. Anyway, let's go back. I'm that old. So I'm just going to go over some of the stuff that, either we had or our friends had growing up, and talk about the video games then, and then what they've actually blown up to be today, and the pros and cons between then and now. So let's go ahead and get into it. No intro today. We're just gonna have a little chat. Let's have a little chat today. I'll tell you, the first video game that we had was PONG. PONG was pretty revolutionary back then. It started out, I believe, Atari and all that. I won't get into histories of a lot of this stuff. I believe PONG was actually first made by Atari. I may be wrong. If I am, I'll throw something here. But basically, you had a paddle on both sides. It was console. I have two of them somewhere in this basement. I don't know where they're at. They took batteries. At least the ones I had took batteries. I think C batteries. But you plug it into your TV, and pretty much we had a ball that goes back and forth, and basically it was like tennis. So, but nobody's seen it before, so it was really cool. I think they actually started off with a cabinet type that you saw in arcades and bars, and it wasn't really arcades whenever it came out, but at least I don't think so. But then they transitioned it to home. A couple years later, I believe, you had a few other consoles that were out, and then COLECOVISION, and I believe Atari. Atari was huge back in the 80s. Huge back in the 80s. I remember I had one, and I saved and man, we collected cans, and I mowed lawns and did everything. Birthday money, Christmas money, if we got Christmas money, just to buy Frogger. $35. So $35, I think, in 1981, 82, that was a whole lot. I mean, I was like 6 or 7 back then. But that was a lot of money. We got an Atari for Christmas. My grandparents bought it for us. It sat in the closet most days, but we had that Atari. And then, I think there was a few other things that come out, but then all of a sudden, in the mid-80s, Nintendo. Now, there's stories about how Nintendo, if you got a chance, check out some of the stories, some of the documentaries on how Nintendo got started. It's actually really interesting. But we ended up getting a Nintendo. Now, I will tell you that there was one year at Christmas time, and, when you're kids, I'm the oldest. My sister kind of duped me a little bit. She told me that I was getting a Nintendo for Christmas, and I was so excited. And then she said my Aunt Mary got it for me. And I apologize, Aunt Mary. I really do. But here's a clip.
Hi, Ryan. Merry Christmas.
Hello.
No.
Sorry, Aunt Mary. You know, I had my hopes up on a Nintendo, and what you got me was fantastic. So Nintendo, that was the biggest thing. The Power Glove, Dance Dance Revolution. I mean, it was on and on and on. Super Mario Brothers. And do yourself a favor, help Mario and I grow the channel. That right there, pretty much what I think put the icing on the cake for video games. What was when Nintendo came out. Then you had Sega Genesis or Sega. It wasn't Sega Genesis. We had a Sega Genesis, but I think the TurboGrafx 16 came out after that. They were kind of fighting, going back and forth with Nintendo or what have you. I didn't have a Nintendo 64. My brother did. I didn't like the joystick. I didn't understand. I don't have a third arm, so I don't know how you work that third controller here and then try to get over here. It's just, and my problem is I have big hands. I've always had big hands, and I was already, having issues with controllers. Sudden PlayStation came along. Now PlayStation 1, I'm talking about the first PlayStation, not PlayStation 2. PlayStation 1 came along, and you had discs, and boy, discs were, that put everything over the edge, because you were at the time of the TurboGrafx 16 and Nintendo, you had 8-bit and 16-bit, so you're thinking, okay, the next thing is 24-bit, but now you got CD, you got discs, and when they started putting games on discs, that just changed everything. But for me, the PlayStation was the next thing. It was like just evolutionary, just like blow you out of the water graphics. It was like, oh my Lord. I remember renting, because I didn't have one. They were expensive. So, then you could go to, your local video store, just like you did in the 80s. You could rent the VCR. Now you could rent the video games. You can rent the game console, and as a kid, you're stupid. There was an old kid getting into his adulthood. I think I could have probably bought, I know I could have bought a PS1 for as much as I rented that from the store. They got their money's worth out of me, I can tell you that. But I've always been one to save, but at the same time, I wanted to play. So, hindsight. Then the 90s kind of crept up, because the PlayStation was early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and the internet wasn't that big. You had dial-up, but I mean, only certain people were actually going on the dial-up and playing games, and dial-up, obviously 56K wasn't fast enough to play like the games today, and we'll get into that too. The evolution of the games, we got, from PONG up to PlayStation 1. What was great about that was you went and rented a game. What was cool, you rented a game, and then if you didn't, up until, when video rentals and stuff, until then you just had to buy it. But, what was cool though with PlayStation and whatnot was you could go rent a game, and if you liked that game, then you'd go buy it, or you'd go save and then buy it, unless you beat it that weekend. And my goal was always to rent it Friday, beat it by Sunday, and then return it, and then do it all over again the next weekend. And those were always fun games. I remember playing Nintendo, Super Mario Brothers, and you would you would play until you beat it. Metroid was cool. You played until you beat it. Rygar. I mean, all those games you played. The ultimate goal was to play until you beat it, and then what you would do is you would go play it again and see if you could beat it in less time than you beat it the first time. And then there was some, because you knew all the stuff, you knew where everything was at, so you just tried to beat your time or what have you. And that's where we'll get into the Xbox and the PS2. So the PS2 and the Xbox, you looked at the back, and like I said, high-speed internet was just starting to get into homes. You got a modem. You didn't have a router. There was no wireless. You had one computer, and you had a modem, and that plugged into your computer. And all of a sudden, these game systems came out, and they've got Ethernet ports on the back. It's like, what's this fun thing? So as a kid, not really understanding at the time, plugging a phone jack into it, because you can it's bigger than a phone cable, but it's still clicks in there. It's like, well, why ain't it working? Okay, well then never mind. We can still play our games, still beat our games, and do all this stuff. So then my buddy Jeff, he got the high-speed internet in his house. I couldn't get it at my house. And he had the Xbox, I had the PlayStation 2. And we would, it's funny, we would, and I know we're going long. I'm just trying to give you a history of my history of the video game world from then to now. But boy, every weekend, Friday night, we would play NHL. And it would be me and Jeff and his brother and Bob and a couple other people. I mean, there was probably 10 of us, and we would set up a bracket. And from Friday night to Sunday afternoon, we would play the EA Sports NHL, and we would, I mean, seriously, we would play, this big, huge tournament all weekend long. And I mean, it would go until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, drinking beer, and we'd just crash where we crashed, and then the next morning we'd get up and have breakfast, and we'd start back over about noon until about 1 or 2 o'clock that next morning. And by the time Sunday rolled around, the brackets would go down and down, and there'd probably be another 4 or 5 hours left of gameplay or what have you till we declared a winner, and then we would do that every weekend. I mean, it was fun. It was great. Well, then sorry if I hit that. Then he got the internet, and Xbox Live kind of trickled in. I don't know if it was really called Xbox Live at the time. So we plugged that Ethernet cable in. We got a router, and because you needed, we would be able to plug it directly into the modem. But eventually we got a router and plugged it in there, so we still have the computer hooked up or whatnot. And so we got on there and we started playing. And what we started to realize was we're playing people that are in New York and China and Canada, and I mean, it's like all of a sudden it just opened up this whole other world that we were just in this little bubble, and now all of a sudden we have everything all around us at our disposal, just like on the computer, because the internet is like, well, all of a sudden we can go in here and do this and do that. It's like, oh my God, the world just opened up. But we finally we started to discover that there was flaws in this system. We would go in there and we start up a tournament with some people, and I mean, we would say they were cheating in a way they were, but they were just taking advantage of the flaw in the system. So you know, say we had a breakaway and, you know, we were going down, it was 2-on-1 because we played hockey a lot. It was 2-on-1. All of a sudden, you know, one of us would pass it to here to shoot on the net. And all of a sudden, as soon as we go to pass, the game would freeze. It's like, what in the world's going on? Why is it freezing? You know, it's like, okay, it just must be just how it is or what have you. But it started doing this a couple times. It's like, well, what was happening was the people we were playing, as soon as they started to find that they were maybe possibly getting ready to be scored on, they would pause it. It's like, well, that's kind of, you know, because you didn't have headsets, you couldn't talk. It wasn't like today where you got the headset on, the microphone on, and you're talking. You could actually hook up 4 controllers to this game system, and because they had 4 ports on the Xbox, the original Xbox, and all 4 of us would get on there and play, you know. And then we'd have one guy as the computer and the goalie as the computer. I mean, shit, we'd always pick Brodeur, you know, or Curtis Joseph back then. But we did that for a whole weekend and realized that that was no fun for us. So we went back to the traditional setup deal. Well, we did this for years. And then all of a sudden the next game came out, and you know, it had a little online play on it or whatnot. Well, the feature of setting up brackets for tournaments disappeared on us. So, you know, I think for a while, I think we tried to do stuff manually, but that just wasn't fun. And then just life, that stuff fizzled out, and we started getting older and jobs and, you know, whatnot. I mean, just life. But that was some fun times. That was memories of mine, you know, that I'll cherish forever. That was Xbox, and then I had the PS2, and then I think what I did was I took all my games from the PS2 and the PS2 itself, and went up to GameStop, and because GameStop was just starting to get up there or getting introduced, and you could trade your games in for a newer console. So I did that, and then so then you had the PS3 that came out, and then the Xbox One, and I didn't have the Xbox One. To be honest with you, up until about a year ago, we had PS3s in the whole house, and they just stopped supporting it for software and stuff. So I think we've got 2 PS4s in the house now, and an Xbox One. So now that brings us to today. I'll be honest with you. I think the kids, and if you're watching and this kind of pertains to you, you know, because we got computers now that play the games, and now it's a big war between console and PC. And I'll be honest, PC is way better than console because console's limited, but consoles are great for the people who can't buy, you know, the PC that plays those games. But I think the internet kind of killed the nostalgic of the video game, because I always liked playing the video game to beat the game, and now there's almost no ending, because to a point it's fun. You know, if Lucasfilm would have kept Star Wars Galaxy, I think that would have been a great, because I would have loved to play that. But I didn't have a computer at the time when it came out, and when it came out, it was here and it fizzled real fast. But you know, it's basically the game. You never beat it, and they take all your money to do all these upgrades and paths and, you know, maps and all this stuff, which is fine, but it's never ending. I always found that I was accomplished something whenever I played a game from beginning to end and I beat it, and, you know, I worked hard for it. Now it's just, It's just, you know, honestly, me personally, I get bored with the games because I know there's no end to it, and if I dump all this money in it, it's like, well, I'm never gonna see the end unless it just shuts down completely, and then you don't have an end, and then you can't go play it again. And it's, you know, and there's still some games out there where you can play from beginning to end. Don't get me wrong. However, I think the internet has kind of killed the video game. How do you say the video game? I mean, I say nostalgic of it, but it's not really nostalgic. It's the excitement to me. To me, the excitement of the video game was to get the game, to play the game, to beat the game before all your friends beat the game. That was the biggest thing. You wanted to beat that game before your friends beat it, just so you can say and have the bragging rights. I beat that game before you did, and then go back and play it again. What was cool about Metroid was when you beat the game, all of a sudden, all your armor came off, and you realized that you were a woman. Spoiler alert if you haven't played it. You were a girl. Like, oh my God, you're a girl. You didn't know you were a girl. You always, you know, that was the mentality. You always thought you were a guy. And all of a sudden you're a girl. That was it was like the biggest thing in the world. It's awesome. So now what happens? You got to go play that game now as the girl. And, you know, and it's just a repeated cycle. And it's just not like that no more. I'm not saying it's bad. I like the games, but I just think that the internet has taken away some of the fun out of it, to be honest with you. And these kids, they don't know. You know, I'm sitting here talking like I'm an old fart, which I am. But anyway, I mean, this is kind of a long video, and I don't know how much of this I'm going to edit, but, you know, I just wanted to come on here and talk to you about video games. You know, I did some tech here and all that stuff. Let's just talk about some games. Let's get away from tech for a minute. Let's just have a break. There's not much going on anyway. It's pretty much a flat line. So anyway, I thank you guys for watching. Do me a favor, if you like this video, throw a like and a subscribe. And I thank you for watching. Have a good day. Take care and bye.